Good day, everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of Why You Do What You Do by the Building Industry Association's Bay Area Young Professionals. I'm your host, Mark Sherlock. Today's guest is the Senior Managing Principal at Zonda, overseeing the advisory team and integrating content with the media and information teams. Please welcome Tim Sullivan.
Tim, great to have you on the show today. How you doing?
Happy to be here, Mark. Not sure why you chose me. Just been around for a while, but it is a pleasure, and I'm ready to have a conversation.
All right. Well, let's get going. First question for you, Tim. How did you get to Senior Managing Principal at Zonda?
Well, if I peel back the onion of my career, it's really been pretty consistent because I've been in the market research side of the world my entire career. I graduated from UCSD with an undergraduate degree in econ and started in research in 1980. So that goes back a ways. And it was one of those things that, even though the research world has changed, it was always for real estate development. And it drew me for a couple of reasons. One, it was always something new. Two, I could learn all the time. And number three, I never was in the same place for too long. And I don't mean with a company, I mean geographically. Because I've worked across the country, I've worked in Canada, actually worked overseas, done some work in Latin America, primarily a residential focus, commercials in there too, a little bit of hospitality and second home markets. But the thing that's been so cool is I continually get to learn. Also, as you probably know, and anybody watching this, our industry has a disproportionate share of really cool people. And that's kind of been the glue that has kept me in the industry.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about your experience, coming up, and then how did you get to Zonda?
You got it. And that is kind of a multiple step. When I started my career, I was working as an intern for John Burnham and Company. That was a mortgage banking company. And I was an intern, and it was a paid internship, and that's why I did it when I was at UCSD. And when that ended, I found another paid internship for a gentleman who's now passed away, but for many years was an icon in the industry of research, and his name was Sanford R. Goodkin. Send love to him. He was a remarkable guy. He was kind of a philosopher, historian in real estate. Started in advertising back in the 50s. And by the 1960s, he and his brother Lou Goodkin, who was on the other side of the world, he was in Florida, they really had almost commercialized market research for real estate development. Because in the 60s and 70s, it was a pretty loose kind of, okay, let's figure out what we should build or where we should build it. And remember, this is before the advent of computers. So there was a lot of analytical things done on paper. In fact, Mark, my first study I actually did on graph paper. I kid you not, it was that long ago. Quickly, we got into the computer age, but the thing that kept happening is that the company I was with would get bought. So Goodkin was bought by KPMG. And KPMG's real estate consulting group wanted to figure out a way to bring a national approach to the real estate development consulting. So I was there for about 10 years, rose up to a position of senior manager, just before principal or just before partner. And at that point, Jeff Myers, who had started Myers Group, which was Myers 1.0, as we playfully say, finally convinced me after years of asking to go to work with them. And together we built Myers Group, notice it's Myers Group, not Myers Research, into a company, and it was purchased by Hanley Wood. Now this is when it gets really incestuous. Hanley Wood then buys another company called Metro Study. They basically get rid of the Myers Group name. And Jeff and I both went on our separate ways. He started a company, I started a company. And along the way, I had a little stop off at a small competitors group. And then Jeff and I got back together in 2012. And that was the beginning of Zonda. But keep in mind, Zonda has now been rebranded. I mean, it's a company that used to be Myers Research, ergo Myers 2.0. But along the way, that Metro Study element that was part of Hanley Wood, who bought us way back when, I hope you're following.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, everything got pulled together because we were purchased by investment banks, really it's private equity, and put Hanley Wood, Builder Magazine, Metro Study, Myers Research all together. And it was rebranded as Zonda because that was our data product on the Myers side. And quite frankly, it was just kind of a new name, and we had all the URLs controlled. So that's ultimately, I think, why the name came to Zonda. But the short answer, Mark, is I did this.
Give a 10,000-foot overview for me on Zonda.
Oh, that's easy. Think of it this way. There's three components to the organization. I mentioned Builder Magazine. So there's a media side to our organization. And the media side includes a huge number of presentations and industry events every year, at least in the places we can do it given COVID. Obviously, this last year, the industry events were greatly reduced. The second component is the data. And that's always been a prominent part of either Myers or Metro Study because it's the information that tracks lots, new home sales, resales, and call it the universe of information on the economic and demographic side. In fact, you and I have worked together indirectly on a number of things, so I think you've seen that research before. And then there's the third leg of the stool, the third component, advisory, which is the direct group that I oversee. And there's about 60 of us nationwide. And the people in advisory are a mix. There's some former builders. There are people with great finance backgrounds. There's some creatives, architectural minds. And then there's some people like Molly Carmichael and me who have just been deep in the research for 20, 30, 40 years.
Very nice. Appreciate the overview. And for anybody else who doesn't know of Zonda, definitely check them out. So Tim, second question for you. What was the most inspirational moment that has shaped your career path?
There are so many. I'm going to go way, way back. And I'm going to say actually my dad. And it has to do with the fact that my dad used to say, there were three boys in our family, and I was the youngest. My dad, whose name is Tom, would say, I have three sons, one of each. My brothers and I would look at each other and say, what the hell are you talking about? As I got older and had my own children, I started to get it. And the concept is that each of the kids are very different. Each of the kids are unique. But the thing that was the inspirational part is my dad went through some really challenging things in his life, World War II, the Depression, and a whole series of other things. There was one thing he never gave up, and it was his work ethic. And I think that has been at the key of both my brothers and me, and even my kids. I'm not the smartest guy you're ever going to meet. I'm not the best looking guy you're ever going to meet, but I will try to outwork anybody. So work ethic, I think, is the one thing. Mark, I could point to people in the industry that have touched me and helped me so much. John Martin, who's a great product guy, and I mentioned Sandy Goodkin. Larry Webb, who has inspiration just oozing out of his pores, and so many other people that are in the industry. But if you have to be focused on one, it's my pop, and it's that work ethic.
Very nice, Tim. Well, I appreciate the insight as well. My father has been a big inspiration in my career as well with the work ethic, so I can completely understand. And a former colleague of ours, Donald Ruthroff, was the other one who instinctively went for his father. And I get that that's a common theme, and I love it. So
well,
Tim,
I hope Don has a chance to review this because I'm sending love to Don. He's one of the good guys.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. All right, Tim. Third and final question, the theme behind the whole show. Why do you do what you do?
That's the easy thing. And before, in a previous conversation, Mark and I were talking about this weekend. And this weekend, I was at a family reunion. And there are a number of people around my age, some older, and after 30 years in an industry, 40 years in an industry, people will say, well, when are you going to retire? And I don't have an answer for that because the answer to your question is I love what I do. And because I love what I do, it's part of my life. I golf a little, I'm pretty crummy at it. I love to travel, I love food, I love my friends. But when it really comes to the thing that drives me, it's that thought process that I get from work. And it's not that working is necessarily the great thing, but it's what I get from working. So I think that's ultimately the driver. I think that's it.
Excellent, Tim. Well, Tim, I appreciate you taking the time today. I cannot wait to share your story. I know the first time I ever met you, I'll never forget it. I was designed a VR, AR app, and we were at the Excellence Awards. And because of John Thatch, that was the reason why we met. So appreciate the time today, Tim.
Oh, my pleasure. John Thatch is another one of the good guys. And for anybody that is watching this, particularly if you're early in your career, if you have any interest on the research side, call me. Call me, email me. I'll talk to you about it. We're always looking for great people. And it's a wonderful future because we are upping our game in a big way. And Mark, that's another thing about Zonda. We're using technology to be a lot smarter, including AI, and we're using satellite technology. So happy to talk to any of you. And Mark, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you, Tim. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
And that wraps up our 10th episode. I'm your host, Mark Sherlock, and always remember why you do what you do.